Tony Todd, the man who terrified us as the killer in Candyman, saved us from zombies in Night of the Living Dead, and brought serious edge to The Rock, passed away on November 6th at his home in Los Angeles. At just 69, it feels like Hollywood didn't fully realize what they had with him. Todd was that rare actor who brought something memorable to every role, even when he deserved much more spotlight. Here are some of his greatest films. Michael Bay's The Rock is peak 90s action, and Tony Todd steals scenes like it's second nature. His iconic line, "I don't like soft-ass shit," still gets a chuckle every time. The film itself is packed with action royalty: Ed Harris, Sean Connery, Nicolas Cage. But Todd holds his own, especially in that scene where Ed Harris diverts the missile and Todd's character realizes the mission's falling apart. The Rock wasn't just another straight-laced script. Bay and the cast improvised a lot of the humor on set, and Todd's renegade military vibe was so well received, he reprised a similar role in 24 a few years later. It's Bay's favorite of his own films, and if you ask Guillermo del Toro, it's one of his favorites too. For a lot of us, Todd's role in the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead, directed by Tom Savini, was unforgettable. His take on Ben wasn't just about survival, it was raw, intense, and had this grounded dignity that few horror leads pull off. This remake was darker, giving us a flawed hero who, in the chaos of a zombie apocalypse, just wanted to hold on to his sanity. For a lot of fans, this movie was their introduction to Tony Todd, and honestly, it's one of his best. Even though it's one of the few official remakes, the original version is public domain, so countless other versions popped up. It wasn't well loved when it came out, even making Roger Ebert's most hated list. Bombed at the box office too, grossed just $5.8 million against a $4.2 million budget, but it's since gained cult status. And if it wasn't for this film, we might never have seen Todd as Candyman. This one's a classic and no surprise Tony Todd's personal favorite. Candyman delivered way more than anyone expected, a horror movie that was actually deep, layered, and more than a bit terrifying. Just hearing Todd's low voice saying Helen in that parking garage was enough to give audiences chills. His powerful, menacing presence set Candyman apart from other horror villains. Candyman grossed $25.8 million against a modest $9 million budget, and Todd got himself a nice bonus out of it. Todd negotiated $1,000 for every bee sting he endured during filming, 23 stings in total. Candyman became a high school sleepover legend and a horror icon, all thanks to Todd's unforgettable performance. The Man from Earth is one of those rare sci-fi gems that barely left the room but somehow created an entire universe of ideas. The plot sounds simple. A college professor, John Oldman, reveals to his colleagues that he's a 14,000-year-old caveman. Naturally, they don't believe him, and what starts as a farewell party spirals into an intense interrogation. Tony Todd plays Dan, one of the professors, and his performance is subtle, grounded, and just magnetic. And there's a fun little nod for fans. Dan mentions he's off to watch Star Trek, which is fitting since Todd himself appeared in 6 Star Trek episodes across multiple series and even lent his voice to the franchise's video games. The movie is brilliant, driven by a well-written script that came from a writer behind Star Trek, the original series, and The Twilight Zone. Tony's performance here, unmissable. In The Crow, Tony Todd plays Grange, the right-hand man to the crime lord Top Dollar, portrayed by Michael Wincott. Grange isn't in the original comic, but Todd's performance makes him unforgettable in the film. Even in a smaller role, he managed to bring layers to a character who could have been just another lackey. Todd has spoken about his approach, saying he always creates backstories for his characters, finding ways to make them relatable, even when they're villains. This philosophy shines through in The Crow. You can feel that there's more to Grange than meets the eye. If you saw Final Destination back in 2000, there's a good chance Tony Todd's character, William Bloodworth, left an impression. Whether he's Death's hype man or Death itself, Bloodworth is that unsettling character who somehow knows way too much about how Death operates. Todd's eerie presence and cryptic delivery turned this small role into a franchise staple, and he returned in the sequel, cementing his role as the go-to guy when Death is involved. The film, made on a $23 million budget, raked in nearly $113 million and spawned a 6-movie franchise. Todd is coming back for Final Destination, Bloodlines in 2025, a full 25 years after the original. It feels almost poetic, really, to see his final role potentially be the character who embodies death itself.